Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, what's up, and welcome back to another edition of Kevin and Zach Reacts. The Philadelphia Eagles defeat the Baltimore Ravens by a final score of 24-19. The Ravens get a last-second garbage time touchdown to make it look better than it was, but nonetheless, still a loss, still a embarrassing loss. I'll say, listen, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Usually I just freeball this. I just go off the dome. We talk about what comes to my mind. I'm going to do all this stuff. I'm just going to do it. I had to write down notes. I wrote down notes for this one because I needed to collect all of my thoughts after that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a quick overview, few seconds, just kind of take it all in at once. Then what we're going to do is we're going to rip the Band-Aid off. We're just going to rip the Band-Aid off. We're talking about Justin Tucker. We're talking about if you move on, if you stay, what is next. After that, we're going to talk about how the offense completely stalled. We're going to talk about play calling. We're going to talk about Lamar. Lots of issues throughout today on the offensive side. Then we're going to talk about the defense. Defense stepped up today. Absolutely incredible. Once again, this defense is taking the right steps and going in the right direction. But unfortunately, when the defense is taking one step forward, the offense and special teams, offense is taking 2 steps back. Special teams seems like it's taking 100 steps back at this moment. So that's kind of what we're going to go into today. Overall thoughts. We're just going to go overall thoughts before we get into anything specific. This was a bad game for the Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens were up 9-0. Just an incredible catch by Mark Andrews. You have all the momentum. Up 9-0. You miss the extra point. You start feeling, you're like, this is weird. Didn't like that. And the thoughts start creeping in, but you still have possession, still have momentum. Ravens go down, 3-and-out against the Eagles. 3-and-out. The defense is flying. The offense is cooking. Then the Ravens went, you missed Isaiah Likely deep wide open. Then you have the fumbled snap. You lost 8 yards. Then you have the 5-yard screen pass. And next thing you know, you're kicking to the Eagles, and it's a completely different game. We can talk about the kicks. The kicks are going to be probably a majority of this. The kicking situation, Justin Tucker, everything. Do the math. If they make these kicks, yes, it's a different situation. Yes, it plays out differently. But mathematically, they make these kicks. This is a completely different ballgame. The Ravens left 7 points out there. And it wasn't just sloppy on the special team side for kicking. Tylan Wallace muffed 2 punts, got both of them back, and the one ended up being overturned, or they had a penalty, so we re-kicked. Everything on special teams besides Rasheen Ali. Incredible kick return. Got up to the 40. Go Herd, baby. Rasheen Ali, Marshall University finest. But besides that one cool kickoff return that really only meant something to me as a Marshall guy, it does, like, the special teams unit was an absolute liability. It was a liability today. It was part of it's a big part of the reason that the Ravens are sitting here with 8-5 coming out of this. And Matt, I couldn't agree more. This team needs a bye more than anything. And John, we'll get into this, but yeah, I completely agree. Stop taking field goals, score some touchdowns. So let's dive into it because it's what everyone wants to talk about. Justin Tucker. So Justin Tucker misses an extra point. Justin Tucker then misses 2 field goals. He did make one. Justin Tucker made 2 field goals, the 34-yarder and the 50-yarder. And I'm not going to lie. It was one of those situations where, yes, he goes out there and misses what was the official length of that final missed field goal? 53 yards. So he misses the 53-yarder. Misses the 53-yarder, and you're sitting there and you're like, okay, this is not good. This is not good. Then he comes out and he has he makes the 50-yarder. After he hits the 50-yarder, I thought maybe we got the confidence back. I was like, it didn't look great, but it was going in the right direction. Didn't look great, but was going in the right direction. Then he comes out, he misses the other one, and you're just sitting there and you're staring at the screen, telling yourself, is this the same Justin Tucker? Never in my life up until this season have I ever felt uncomfortable with Justin Tucker kicking the football. We sent him out for 66 yards against the Lions, game on the line. I felt fine. The next year, 2 years later, we sent him out there for 67 yards, game on the line versus the Jaguars. He didn't make it, but I felt confident in it. There was no one else on earth I'd rather have than Justin Tucker. Now you go to this year. Justin Tucker has 10 missed kicks, extra points, and field goals. That's the most in football. Not the most in the AFC North, not the most in the AFC, not the most for a team that has a bird mascot. All 32 teams out of everybody who has kicked in the National Football League this year, Justin Tucker leads them all with the most missed kicks. 8 field goals, which is a career high for Justin Tucker, and 2 missed extra points. So we'll talk about this. In the comments, let me know. What's your solution? What's your idea? Do you move on from Tucker or do you stick it out? So comment, move on, stick it out. Just kind of 2 simple things. Are you moving on or are you sticking with Tucker? Because we already got our answer. At least from John Harbaugh, we got the preliminary answer. He said they're sticking with him. John Harbaugh said that they're sticking with Justin Tucker. And in all honesty, it's probably the thing to do. It's probably, as much as I know people don't want to hear it, especially after Justin Tucker just left 7 points on the board in a game that you lost by 6, 5. I don't do math. Game you lost by 5. I know people don't want to hear it right now, but it probably is the best. They're going to stick with Justin Tucker. Rich Raven, I agree with this. I don't know if they move on from Tucker, but it would be, in my mind, malpractice, not at least bring in competition. You have the bye week, you can bring guys in for tryouts. I don't know what to do. They're saying they're sticking with Tucker. I don't know if that's the move. I don't know if that's the move I would do. Part of me, in a very recency bias, still this game ended an hour ago, still feeling everything from the game, raw emotions, all that. My initial thought is going to be, I don't know why you keep him. My initial thought is, okay, you got to switch something up at some spot. At some spot, you have to do something. But I don't know if they move on. They're saying they don't. I think you got to bring someone else in, at least for competition, maybe just light a fire under them. Because the thing is, with kicking, it's a mental part of the sport. It's a mental part of the sport. And right now, listen, the most concerning one was when he missed right. As crazy as that seems, every single one of these kicks, he had missed left. He was pulling every single ball. It was the exact same thing over and over and over again. Then he completely overcompensated and missed right, dead center, middle, didn't even move. That was when I was like, okay, he's in his head. Because it seemed like the pulling thing was maybe a mechanical issue, maybe something was happening. You never really knew, but it was the same thing every time. When he just completely shanked it and pushed it, it felt like, yeah, he overcorrected to the. He overcorrected. He overcorrected. So, Pat's saying, well, if they bring in a new punter, just very least change something. Yeah, this is one of those situations where I don't know enough about like holding and stuff to know if, Jordan Stout is having how he's impacting it. I don't know if Nick Moore's impacting it. I don't know if it's all Tucker. I don't know if it's a combination of the three. I'm not sure, but kind of in the same sense, like I just talked about with Tucker, even if you're not moving on, bring in sort of some sort of competition, because that's what is like the annoying part is like I see where is Karen talking about. Karen, I'm sorry, I don't have it pulled up right now. Karen talking about complacency. This is the biggest issue, is the fact that the complacency. Exactly. It doesn't matter if you're going to move on from Tucker or not. Look at the options. Look at the options. It doesn't matter if you're going to get a new holder, a new punter or not. Look at the options. Over and over, you can't just say, oh, it's going to get better. Oh, we're not looking for a solution. We're just going to ride this out. Justin Tucker's still the greatest kicker of all time. I know people think that this is like hurting his all-time thing. It's not. Justin Tucker's one of the greatest, if not the greatest kicker of all time. I still trust him as much as I know people don't. If it came down to something in the playoffs, I would trust Justin Tucker over some random dude they brought off the street. Does it mean that right now I have the most confidence in him? No. But if it comes down to it, I'd still prefer to have Justin Tucker, who's been there, done that. I'm seeing people talk about Rodrigo Blankenship. Rodrigo hasn't kicked in the league in 2 years. I love his glasses. I think he's a hilarious dude. Love the Lego stuff, but I don't know what they're doing. And John saying right out to another playoff loss, that might be what happens. That might be what happens. And it's what I'm talking about with the complacency. It seems like even if they are not going to move on, it would just make some sort of sense to be like, okay, we need to at least try to get better. Same thing though. This is what we've seen is with Marcus Williams, with Eddie Jackson, with potentially Deontay Johnson. We'll get into that. The same things we're seeing with them. The old Ravens, they would have looked at Marcus Williams' contract. They would have said, oh, we signed Eddie Jackson, and they would have just wrote it out. Marcus Williams, healthy scratch day. Eddie Jackson, waived by the team. So they seem to be able to make these drastic, hey, this is an uncomfortable move, but we have to do what's best for the team. So that's why I'm not completely ruling out that they make a change somewhere, because they've shown, hey, with the Marcus Williams, with stuff like that, they're willing to take a chance and say, okay, we're going to go out here and try to improve. We're not okay with just sitting around and hoping it gets better. They're going to try to improve. I'm not sure that happens. According to Harbaugh and them, right now, from what they're saying, is it's still Tucker's job. They're not giving up on Tucker, and it's Tucker's job for the rest of the season. So that's the same. That seems to be what's happening. And Jesse said Lamar's mom. I'm not sure if that's true, but I could see it. Lamar, it seems like Lamar's like trying to give into this narrative that he's not the running back. He doesn't just go out there and run. If it's open, Lamar, you are still the most dominant running threat at the quarterback position this league's ever seen. So that's good. You know what? This is a good segue into our next point. Offensive complacency, offensive stalling, just poor offensive play calling throughout. I talked about it. The Baltimore Ravens went up 9-0. They get the ball back. You go likely wide open misses. Then you had the fumbled snap. All of a sudden, you're back. It's 3rd and 19. You do a 5-yard dump off to Justice Hill. Now we're punting it back. After that, the offense disappeared. The offense completely disappeared from that point on, all the way up until finally in garbage time at the end. Isaiah Likely had the Isaiah Likely show for the final drive and just did his thing. So shout out to Isaiah Likely. But it felt like time after time, this team, I didn't understand it. Going into, I believe it was the fourth quarter, and the Ravens had ran the ball. I believe they got the ball at the 5-yard line. And Derrick Henry ran the ball up with the run game, turning around, handing it off to the big fella and running it down their throats, got them to the 40, 45-yard line. The Ravens then passed the ball 3 straight times, 3 straight incompletions, kicked it back. I don't understand it. The Ravens, for some reason, at the most mind-boggling times, give up on the run. They completely go into this pass happy. The Ravens were down 2, and once again, it felt like the playoff game where they were trying to get Derrick Henry going, and like they would get him going for half the field, and then they'd be like, okay, we got to pass it. And then the first down play, if the first down pass was not a completion, the next 2 plays were passes. If they passed it on first down and it was not a completion, if they did not gain any yards, they were passing it the next 2 downs. And it got into it. When you're running play action, but you haven't established the run, no one's afraid of the run right now because it's 3rd and 8, it's 2nd and 8 because you're not getting anything passing on early downs. I agree with this. Monken, it feels like we've seen Monken where he is this offensive genius, and it feels like everything he touches turns to gold. He has the offense humming on all cylinders. It's just go, go, go. Offense doing their thing. Lamar looks great. Everything is going in sync. And then you have moments like today, like the Steelers games, where, listen, it's some play calling is hurting this team. 3rd and 1, and we're running the toss play. Derrick Henry gets hit 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage. We're punting. 3rd and 1, or 2nd and 1, and they end up going with the end around to Zay Flowers. He gets loss of 2. It's the little things like that feel like they're just putting the Ravens behind schedule. That's the biggest thing. It just feels like the Ravens are getting put behind schedule with some of these play calls. It feels like they're getting too cute. That's the biggest thing that I've seen. It feels like they're getting too cute at times. They're trying to make the, screen pass, the reverses, the end arounds, all the motion. And on the Zay end around, I knew the end around was coming from the second he went in motion a second time. It just feels predictable at times. And that's the biggest issue, is when it becomes predictable, when you're not getting anything going and it's predictable, that's how we see the offense stall out. Now that we are past the play calling portion, the play calling and all that, this was not a good game from Lamar Jackson. All right. This is not a good game from Lamar Jackson at all. Let's completely just look at the box scores right now. Lamar goes 23 of 36 for 237 yards, 2 touchdowns with a 101 passer rating. It's going to look better because of that final drive, his stats at the end. He also ran the ball 8 times for 79 yards. He goes over 300 total yards again. So on paper, you're like, okay, a decent game from Lamar, 101 passer rating. It was not. Lamar was off today. That's, I think, to say the least. Lamar Jackson didn't seem to really have everything going that he would want to have. There were guys missing, guys wide open. We talk about the likely. We then had a sprint out on, I think, their own 5-yard line. Zay Flowers open for a quick 5 and out. Doesn't get it, doesn't get his feet stepped, dirts it. It felt like all game he just, yes. Yeah, this was on the radio. Rod Woodson was beating the drum for Lamar to not taking the underneath routes. He kept going deep shots against 2 high safety look. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. This was the tough one because it felt like the routes were there. Like the opportunities were there. They would have Bateman before he got injured. We'll get into that. They had Zay. They had guys running underneath routes where you're like, okay, you get that. You take the 4 or 5 yards and you keep rolling. Grab 4 or 5, grab 5, 6 yards and keep the chains moving. But instead of that, first and 10, second and 6, instead of taking the 5, 6 yards to stay ahead of schedule, ahead of the chains, allow you to dictate it. The Ravens were taking shots. Lamar was taking deep shots. He had opportunities. He had 2 beautiful passes to Nelson Aguilar that got dropped. I'm not blaming Lamar for those. Those were beautiful passes. But Lamar did not have a good game. I think Lamar's the first one that will tell you that. He took inopportune sacks. That first missed field goal, now Justin Tucker needs to make that field goal. Justin will be the first one to tell you that. 47 yards he needs to be making. But also, the last thing the Ravens need to be doing and Lamar needs to be doing is taking a 10, 15-yard sack on that opportunity. If they had 10 more yards, Tucker, I think, if the exact same kick, I think it goes through. It felt like the team, one thing was leading to the other, and the only third of the team that was doing their job was the defense, which 2 weeks ago, who thought we'd be sitting here saying that, hey, special teams still not playing well. Offense sputtering at times, but the defense is good. Where did this come from? I mean, give credit where credit's due. Zach Orr had another fantastic game. The Ravens shut down the Eagles at times. It was the first quarter, Ravens shut them down. Third quarter, Ravens shut them down. Unfortunately, the second quarter, the Eagles beat up on the Ravens defense. That was really the quarter that they kind of had their way. They were able to move the ball. A.J. Brown got involved. It felt like for some reason the Eagles only realized they had A.J. Brown for certain periods of time. Like they'd go on a streak of 10, 15 plays where it feels like A.J. Brown wasn't on the field, and all of a sudden 6 straight plays, he just was getting force-fed the ball down the field. We talked today about not letting A.J. Brown beat you, and it really, at times, he was the reason they were getting beat. But for the most part, they did a good job. The Ravens defense, same thing with Saquon Barkley. At the end of the day, you're going to look at the stats. At the end, Saquon wore them down. He got a few big breaks. He got the touchdown. So, yeah, the stats are going to look good. For the most part, the Ravens contained Saquon, and that's all you can do. Saquon's going to get his touches. He's going to get his breaks. He's going to get his touchdowns. If you would have told me that the Ravens held the Eagles' offense to 24 and that, hey, Saquon's not going to really dominate this game, Hurts isn't going to have the best game, it's not like A.J. Brown's taken over, I would have felt really good going into it that the Ravens were coming out with the win. I would have felt really good going into it that we were going to get a win, but that's not what happened. It just felt like if as soon as the missed extra point happened, then the offense started sputtering a little. That led to the defense having to take over everything because the offense would go down. They'd have positive momentum, and then they would get a sack, something happens, and it was a long field goal attempt. Over and over and over again, it just felt like, Tucker missed 2 field goals. Tucker missed 3 kicks today. The extra point's inexcusable. 47, Lamar can't take a sack there, so Lamar hurts the special teams unit there, makes it a tougher kick. And then obviously 50, he hits the 50-yarder. He then misses 53. 53, I'm not going to be upset that a kicker misses 53. Should he make it? Yeah, he's going to say he should. But it's not the end-all, be-all. But it's at the end of the day, it's the offense didn't help the special teams. Special teams sure as hell didn't help anyone. Special teams had as tough of a day as you're going to see, and then kind of left the defense on this island. This island of they had to get stops on every single play. If they gave up towards the end, unfortunately, the defense kept getting stops with only down 2, and it felt like, okay, the offense was just about to break it. The offense was just there. They're just about to get going. It's just about to happen. And then it would get stopped. And then there would be the miscue on special teams. And that's how we found ourselves 24-18 at the end of the game. 24-12 for the majority of it. Or at least how it should have pretty much ended. Yeah, Joe, last 3 games have looked really good for the defense. I talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers game. You just felt good because it was a division rival. You felt like the Steelers had, we saw what the Steelers, Russell Wilson, obviously had a good game today. The Steelers are one of those teams where they have their moments. So, you had a good game against them. You're like, okay, it's a start. Then you felt like it was a step up with the Chargers. You played decent. You're able to get the win. Unfortunately, with Pittsburgh, same story as today. The defense plays well, but the offense sputters. Special teams doesn't play well. It felt like we were living out the same game. Then you played kind of your best offense, the test that you have probably in quite some time. And it's really was awesome to see the defense step up in the ways that they did. Getting back Michael Pierce is going to be good because they didn't have Michael Pierce. They didn't have Kyle Van Noy. And it really is just at the point where you hope that the defense can put it together. Continue to stack days on top of days, games on top of games. Nate Wiggins had his moments. Tre'Davious White had his moments. Marlon had his moments. It felt like overall the defense played a very nice game together. I love having Kyle Hamilton back at safety. It feels like things should happen better when that's going on. But just overall, I can't even really put into words the frustration that kind of took over. And speaking of frustrating, it's not just frustrating for me, it's frustrating for my co-host as well. We'll welcome on Kevin Ostrecker. Kevin, that happened.
It certainly did, man. I thought you were going to say, speaking of frustrating, now Kevin's here. And I'm like, damn, man. Hey to you too.
Kevin, tough game to say the least. How are you? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough all around, man. I mean, it just feels like this is not it. Like, I think you can kind of feel, I think we all felt this last year, what a championship team kind of feels like.
Yeah.
And last year, obviously, really rough outlier game in the AFC Championship game, and that ends their season. But that team had all the makings of a championship team. This team just doesn't feel like they have it.
Yeah.
Right? And honestly, a lot of that, and I'll be talking about this a lot tomorrow and throughout the week on Locked On Ravens. I'm sure we're going to be getting to it too on the Ryan Ripken show. It's like this is just a drama-filled team right now.
Yeah.
There's just so much drama surrounding this team with what's going on with Deontay Johnson. Is he refusing to play in these games? Marlon Humphrey's taking shots at Marcus Williams. It just feels like there's drama. Like the Eddie Jackson thing, you have to cut him. It's like distractions. And I think they're a bigger deal. The Ravens try their best to keep him under wraps. And obviously Harbaugh has asked about him and he deflects or says we're keeping that in-house or whatever it may be. But this doesn't feel like a championship team. I mean, I go back. Yes, I'm a Nuggets fan. If you didn't know, Zach, I don't know if you knew this, but I am a Nuggets fan. I don't know if I say it enough. But that championship year, Bones Highland was like pouting about playoff time on the bench and like getting into fights with the coaches. And he was their first round pick just the year prior. And the Nuggets said, we're not dealing with this. We can't have this. This is our year for a championship. And they traded him for far below what his value was. And they went off and they won. And it was great. Now you can't do that with a player like Marcus Williams because he costs so much money. And Deontay Johnson, do you just bite the bullet and like cut him? Like, if that's what's going on, it goes so much deeper than on the field with this team, it feels like. And that is not what makes up a championship team, let alone feels like kicking's been weird in the NFL this season. But all these teams that you're trying to compete with, well, Chris Boswell's been the best kicker in football this year. Tyler Bass was awful at the beginning of this year, but he's been great over the last 2 months of the season. The Chiefs are finding ways to win with budget kickers with Harrison Butker on IR. But it's Justin Tucker, which is crazy, being the one that just cannot figure it out. And I think Cole Jackson kind of said it best, Zach. I don't know if you saw the video or Cole's tweet or whatnot, but Tucker took accountability after the loss. And Cole's just kind of like, this feels like a hero dying, like the hero falling. And it's tough to see. Because, yeah, Justin Tucker's the greatest kicker of all time, and I'm not moving on my stance of that. But he's been the worst kicker in football this season. He's missed 10 kicks, and he's actively cost the Ravens at least 2 games. And so this bye week is an opportunity for them to do soul searching and to say there's still time, but we're 3 months into the season. I mean, we're far past that conversation. And that, to me, is where it is certainly frustrating on a lot of different levels, because this was a very winnable game. The defense did more than enough to give the offense chances as well, and Lamar and the offense, Monken, couldn't capitalize on it. It just feels like, again, Zach, one unit plays well, the other two just go out there and lay a dud, and they can never have it all 3 ways. It only happened this year. It's happened twice against Denver and against Buffalo. If you want to count Tampa, I'll give you that too, but I don't necessarily count that game because of how they almost lost it. So it's just like they can't get on the same page, and that to me is the struggle with this team, because you need to be hitting on all cylinders if you want to win a Super Bowl. And right now the Ravens just haven't done that for the majority of the season.
Yeah, and it's okay to not hit on all cylinders. You know, we saw
they're not going to all the time.
Yeah, we saw last year with the Chiefs. We saw last year with the Chiefs everything that went down. We saw with the 2012 Ravens, lost 3 straight, had to fire Cam Cameron. But Kevin, like you said, what's the one thing that championship teams often get right? They don't have the internal drama spill over onto the field. Even if there is any, it gets dealt with and they move on. If something happens, okay, we move on. You know, do we move on from the player, whatever it may be, but it feels like you said, it just is overwhelming. Like you stop one, you get rid of Eddie Jackson. Okay, we're going to solve it. Okay, everything's good. Okay, Marcus Williams now is that whole saga is still heating up. Okay, we're taking a chance on Deontay Johnson to be depth. We know he has, a history of attitude at times. We're going to figure out what happens. We think this is good depth. Do you just cut him? Because you brought him in as depth. We kept saying, you're going to, you don't want Deontay Johnson now, but if Rashad Bateman goes down, you're going to want Deontay Johnson. And then Deontay Johnson sat on the sideline. It looked like a comfortable coat. He was bundled up.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't he was snug.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was great in there instead of having to be on the field in the cold, but what the heck is going on? And then Harbaugh's post-game comments made it even weirder.
It just feels like the frustration is boiling over.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I put it. Frustration is boiling over.
Fantastic way to put it, Kevin, because I think it's because it's at that point. And whether we want to talk about it being coaching, whether it's players, whether it's team philosophy, whether it starts at the top, whether it starts at the bottom, we know one thing, it's a problem. Because we've seen it. We've seen it become a problem this whole year. It starts as something simple. You just lost. You just dropped the game to the Raiders. Tough one, but you just dropped the game because that also had a Tucker missed field goal, right? You just lost. Then, okay, it's just a tough one you lose to the Steelers. That's a tough one that you lose to the Eagles. But suddenly you look back in those, okay, it's a tough one, but we'll figure it out, turned into 3 losses.
Now you have to dwell on this for 2 weeks because of the bye week.
Good. I will say I hate this for us. I think this is one of those things that could help the Ravens. Just getting – that was kind of embarrassing at the end. They could just do whatever, nothing. Like the Ravens had no confidence. That was the weirdest thing was there was no confidence. They went out on the field and it was like, okay, let's hope. Let's see if hopefully Zay does something cool.
Yeah. And speaking of confidence, I mean, I don't know if we're ever going to feel this way again, Zach, but I remember, decade plus of Justin Tucker trotting out on that field, and there was just a wave of calm that washed over you. 55 yards, no problem. Inside 50, that's a gimme. Extra point, no way he's missing that. It's always going in. And this year, it just feels like even on those 37-yard chip shot field goals, the extra points, which again, he almost doinked the second one off the upright too.
Yeah.
No pressure. Almost doinked the second one off the upright too. Just feels like every time you're on the edge of your seat, praying the ball goes in. And when that ball starts to veer over to the left, you're kind of leaning with the ball to see if it's going in or not. And it just barely gets in or it goes out. I mean, I said this, Zach, and I know we've talked about it too, and I've harped on it on Locked On Ravens for years, honestly. For a team that prides themselves so much on special teams, Baltimore's unit has been extremely underwhelming over the last few seasons. Goes beyond Justin Tucker this year. Tylan Wallace had like 4 awful plays in this game.
Yeah, that's what I said it's not, and it's going to get covered up because he recovered the 2 muffs. The 1 muff gets completely erased because of the penalty and a re-kick. But there were 2 muffs. There was balls that got into the 5-yard line that should have been caught. Yeah. And I'm gonna agree with Matt. This is kind of maybe it's a cope, maybe it's a spin zone. Call it what you want.
I agree.
This is what I was saying when I said I hate this for us. I like it for the team. Sit there with this loss for 2 weeks because that was kind of rough to watch. That was not fun. Simmer on it. We can get rid of this whole Daniel Jones is the only NFC quarterback.
Oh, dude, that was my favorite stat. I'm so mad. It was my favorite stat, and now it's you know what? But I'm leaving here with something. You know what I'm leaving here with?
What?
Who was on both those teams?
Who?
Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley is the only player in the NFC to beat Lamar Jackson twice. I'm leaving here with something. We can't have Daniel Jones anymore, which was incredible in its own right.
It was a great one.
Because Jalen Hurts had to ruin it. But you know what? Saquon Barkley is the new Daniel Jones. And now we're just riding the Saquon Barkley train until someone else beats him. And then we can officially put the narrative to bed.
Oh, and then
I'm sure Lamar, by the way.
And then, Karen, we got the house divided coming up. I'm sure you guys, Giants, Ravens. Although, Karen, I guess this is kind of a win-lose for you because at least now you no longer have to hear Daniel Jones is the only. So, maybe that's a win, but you probably don't want to, not right now.
By the way, Lamar is probably very happy he won't have to talk about that anymore. You could tell every time he was asked about the NFC thing, he was so mad. He was so mad he had to answer questions about it. So I think that Lamar obviously lost today, but he probably won in the long run when it comes to answering those questions that he doesn't want to answer. So,
yeah, it's just it was one of those games where
there were a lot of no, because the Cleveland stat died with Pittsburgh, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Man, Ravens are losing all sorts of. Their preseason streak is over. Remember when that was the coolest thing in the world, and now everybody, man, the Ravens are losing all their streaks. Derrick Henry touchdown streak is over. Man, we had it so good back in the day. We had it so good.
Oh my gosh, what just happened to McCaffrey?
Did he get injured?
I guess. Oh my God. I just hope so because, dude, just I can't. Yeah.
I also thought the offensive line did not play well.
No, offensive line played terrible. Offensive line.
I said on my shows, I said on Locked On Ravens pregame, we did an episode today, or episode that came out today. Talked about it on Crossover Thursday with Locked On Eagles. We both agreed that whichever offensive line played better, that team is probably going to win the game. I thought Philly was able to get a lot of pressure on Lamar without blitzing, which was big for them. And I thought that Baltimore just struggled in general to open up rushing lanes for Derrick Henry, protect Lamar. And then on the flip side, Baltimore's run defense was great for the most part. You know, there wasn't necessarily pressure on Jalen Hurts. I thought they did a decent job. But I thought that Baltimore's offensive line was worse than Philly's, and that was one of the things that cost the game.
Yeah. I mean, the offensive line did not – Lamar was running for his life every single play. It just looked like they couldn't get anything going. When Lamar had guys wide open, he couldn't get his feet set. He was just at all times looking over his back shoulder. It just was bad. It was bad from start to finish. The defensive line for Philly took over, and Rocco's speeding ticket cost the Ravens game.
Wait, first of all, appreciate you, Joe. Did Rocco get a speeding ticket today?
Oh, yeah. Rocco got a speeding ticket coming to the studio.
No shot. Yeah, like pulled over or camera?
Oh, no, pulled over. He got a full – he was coming back from New Jersey. Yeah.
Oh. Wow.
Gosh.
So was he late? Like, did he walk in? He should have had the cop walk him into the studio for an entrance.
He should have. And I think he got pulled over in Jersey.
He should have said, "Hey, can you follow me to Baltimore and you can walk me in handcuffs for my entrance into the studio?"
Honestly, probably best. Probably that would be
been, what an electric, absolutely electric.
No. Kevin, any final thoughts on this game before we head out of here?
When's the baseball season?
For real.
God, I saw Joe wanted a prop. I can't remember if he said it in Locked On Ravens chat or this chat, but I got I'll dust it off. Literally, there's dust all over this thing. Got my 30-year anniversary Camden Yards dirt from 2022.
Oh.
Man, although the Orioles need to sign some people first before we get into
baseball
season.
We need something to happen, Kevin. We need something to happen.
Yeah, it's gonna be Evaldi. That's my prediction.
You're going to Evaldi? I think so too. I think that's the most realistic. Is that I think he's just kind of that guy that makes the most sense for both sides.
Yeah, it'd be kind of disappointing, but I think, realistic versus dream scenarios. Yeah. Hey, if they make the playoffs there, they're not losing. But Corbin went out and did his thing, and then they lost. So it doesn't really, unless Evaldi can go out there and slug a grand slam in the playoffs. Well, Bartolo Colon style.
Yeah, might as well. God, Baltimore sports, don't you love it?
Yeah, you gotta love them.
Yeah, but that'll do it for this edition of Kevin and Zach React. Hit that like and subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Go live after every single Ravens and Orioles game, win or lose. Man, tough game. Ravens lose 24-18 to the Philadelphia Eagles, drop to 8-5, heading into the bye week. No show, obviously, after the next Ravens game or next week because there's no Ravens game. But we will be back if anything happens with the Orioles, any news happens, and rumors, anything of the sort. If the Ravens make a move,
could be.
Who knows? But stay tuned and, watch for that. And, we will see you next time for another edition of Kevin and Zach React. Chewies.